Hello, YouTube fans. This is TheSkullKlown. You can tell from the title. Final Fantasy VII fucked up everything. Now, what do I mean by that, TheSkullKlown? What do I mean by that? Do you hate Final Fantasy VII? No, I actually like Final Fantasy VII. Is it overrated? Fuck yeah. It's overrated. Compared to 8 and 9? Yeah, it's overrated. Very overrated. Very, 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 very overrated. Alright? Now, the characters are great. I like Cloud, I like Tifa, I like Aerith, I like Barry, I love Red 13. I love all those characters. But Square Enix, this company itself, this company has treated these characters like slaughter. They have. And it's not just that. The title's going to be called differently, obviously. The title is most likely going to be called, I wish Square Enix didn't had that game that launched RPGs into the stratosphere. Because that's what they always wanted to do. We all remember how, we all know the story, not remember, but we all know the story of the game of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I tried to play it on my, I tried to play that game on my Super Nintendo, but somehow it didn't work. And every time I did turn it on, it shut off and stuff like that. And it wasn't even the system, because I had Dragon Quest V, Hands of the Heavenly Bride, on the Super Nintendo, and that worked just fine. You know, really good game, by the way, really good game. But yeah, it just did that to me. So maybe it was just the cartridge, you know. But I wanted to play it. You know, I saw HC Bailey Let's Played it, and it has a kick-ass soundtrack and all that. But let's be real. Square Enix made that game basically kind of easy or beginner-friendly for RPG people, which is fine. You know, those games are like that. You know, even people point out Final Fantasy 13 is like that, which is fine. I don't mind having games being an introduction to a genre. That is fine. That's fine. Who knows? Maybe Mixtape was supposed to be like that. Well, it didn't seem like it. No, I'm playing. Most people are like, what are you doing? This is about Final Fantasy. I didn't come here to hear this shit. Anyways, Final Fantasy, Square Enix, when they were trying to find that main RPG game that can make them into that stratosphere, because they thought that, oh, no one doesn't care about RPG, turn-based RPGs, or RPGs in general. And so they were trying to hit that mainstream. They were trying to get that, because it was working in Japan, but it wasn't really working here in America all that much back in the 90s. Then Super Mario RPG came out, and that kind of worked a bit for some people, but it still wasn't enough for Square. So when Final Fantasy VII came out, to them it was enough. And they went all in on it. Now, here's the problem with that. They haven't been the same since they put that shit in their head. And when they started putting that shit in their head, I don't know, you know, you could point it out somewhere here. But eventually they put it in their heads. And now we got what Final Fantasy is right now. The thing is, a lot of people say Final Fantasy 13 fucked up the Final Fantasy franchise. No, it didn't. Final Fantasy 14 did. The original Final Fantasy 14, to the point that they had to nuke it and make another Final Fantasy 14. So don't tell me Final Fantasy 13 was the catalyst. No, it was Final Fantasy 14. Even Square Enix had to literally apologize that, yeah, we fucked up because it wasn't a standard or quality of Final Fantasy. They literally apologized for Final Fantasy 14. That's how you know that was the bottom of the barrel of the dog shit. Okay? Seriously. So, and now, right now, people don't even look at fondly as Final Fantasy 14 anymore, because they fucking that shit up too. Ever since Final Fantasy 15 and 16 came out, especially 16, that Final Fantasy 14 online has been going downhill rapidly. I wonder why. I mean, I know why, but... So, but it is true. Square Enix wanted an RPG to go to the mainstream, and they got there with Final Fantasy VII. And that was the biggest detriment to ever have with Final Fantasy, the whole franchise. You wanted it was fine to begin with. It had its niche audience, but yet you wanted to go mainstream. And now look at the franchise now. Square Enix is a joke. No one doesn't give a shit about Final Fantasy anymore. No one doesn't give a shit about Kingdom Hearts anymore. I do. Shut the fuck up. I do. No, you don't. And if you do, you're one of those people that agrees to Square Enix's philosophy bullshit. No, I don't. Then why do you still buy their games? Why are you still being like, oh, I'm still going to buy Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm still going to get the next Square Enix game. See? One ear and right out the other. You don't give a shit. Just tell me you don't. Tell me you don't give a shit without telling me you don't give a shit. You know? Seriously. Because that's what you're telling me. And telling other people, you just don't give a shit. It's the same people that literally... It's the same people that want GTA 6 to be $100 and they still be like, oh, I still buy it. Oh, but you don't know the damaging that's going to have in the gaming industry. I don't care about GTA 6. Can't wait for the gaming industry to crash and then you guys, stupid motherfuckers, can complain about it and I'm going to be like, it's your fault. It's literally your fault. Yes, I'm pointing a finger at you because it is your fucking fault. Now everyone has to go to the back catalog, which they don't mind, but some of them don't have a back catalog. That's not my fucking problem. You're the one that wants to suck the dick out of these fucking goddamn companies and throw away your old fucking games. Because you think that every time you go to somebody's house, oh, look at this. Oh, it's a mess. You need to get rid of these. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. Seriously. Fuck off. It's the same thing when people say... It's the same thing when people got rid of their Disney movies because Disney Plus was happening. And guess what happened with that? Now they regret selling all their Disney movies. Idiots. All of your idiots for doing that shit. All of your idiots. I don't like the way you talk. Good. No one doesn't like the way I talk, but I do. And that's all that fucking matters, motherfucker. Seriously. Alright? Square Enix has fucked up a long time ago. Alright? They fucked up when they wanted Final Fantasy to be mainstream. And they got it with Final Fantasy 7. Congratulations, Square. You got that. You got it. And now look at the state that we're in right now with Final Fantasy. And yes, I'm talking about Final Fantasy back in the PS1 era. That's why I'm saying the more you think about Final Fantasy 7, the more you tell yourself it is overrated as shit. And it is overrated. It is overrated. Not underrated, overrated. Underrated is literally Final Fantasy 9 because it didn't get the love that it deserves until a few years ago. Because people are actually seeing that this game is a fucking bona fide classic. To me, Final Fantasy 9 is a 10 out of 10. Final Fantasy 9 is, Final Fantasy 9 is a 10 out of 10, while Final Fantasy 7 is a 7/10 game. The combat is fun. I give the combat a 9 out of 10. You know? But everything else, I don't think the story is not... I'm not saying the story's bad, but overall, when you're playing through the game and you see it and you finally beat it, you just feel like, oh, okay, you played a good game, but did you play a classic? Some people might say yes, but me, I'll say I have gotten far with Final Fantasy 7, and it's just. And I've seen a Let's Play with H.C. Bailey years ago before I played Final Fantasy 7. Same thing with Final Fantasy 8 and 9. But that didn't change my opinions of how I felt with the game. Because when I watched those Let's Plays from H.C. Bailey, I was just watching them like they were episodes and stuff like that. Because when I finally did play those games, I realized how much I started to love it really, really, really much. Because there's a difference when you are watching something... And it's not like one of those games that's almost like a movie, It's not like that, It's not like Heavy Rain, mixtape, or Dispatch and all that stuff. You know, I got nothing against those type of games, but that's why I always say, hey, it feels like you just wanted to make a movie, guys, or an anime show. Just do it. But people have problems with that. Too fucking bad, bro. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks like a duck, then it's a duck. You know? That's why some people be like, oh, they're just interactive movies. And look, I'm not a big fan of interactive shit like that, because I just want to play a fucking game. If I want to interact with something like that, I will probably do it in real life. Touch a cup. Touch a controller. Oh, I just did. There we go. A cinematic game. There, I just did it. Yay. Yeah, I said it. 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 I don't care if I'm annoying. Seriously, you think it's 2026? You think I give a fucking damn? This body's 32 years old. You think I fucking give a damn? Seriously, you sound really negative. No, you just sound like one of those bitches that don't want to hear what the fuck is going on around here. And you don't want to, and that's fine if you disagree with me and shit like that. But overall, you can't agree with the bullshit that these companies are doing. You know, Final Fantasy VII was the pick of the, was the point of no return for a lot of RPGs. Look at Final Fantasy VII on PS1. I mean, Dragon Quest VII on PS1. Dragon Quest VII on PS1 was shit on because they didn't have the graphics or the 3D graphics. Now people look back at it and oh, the irony, how much times have changed. Now people are begging for those type of graphics to come back. I mean, they're all here still. They haven't died off. But people are just begging for something like that to happen, or something that you see in Dragon Quest V for the PS2. Imagine having another RPG game that has the style of Dragon Quest V for the PS2. I will play that shit. I will play that shit. But Square Enix doesn't want to do it. They would just make it pixelated. And I got nothing against pixel art or anything like that, or pixelated video games. That shit was my theme like crazy as a kid. But then once I saw how Dragon Quest V was for the PS2, I told myself, man, if model games can do that for some RPGs, it would be great. It still leaves the room of imagination, which a lot of games don't do nowadays. They don't. Look at the Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth. They don't leave anything interpretation to imagination. At least with the original, it does. You know? And that's one of the problems with a lot of things with video games, you know? It's the same thing with Grand Theft Auto. You know? Not to say when Grand Theft Auto went 3D, when Grand Theft Auto went to 3D, it did benefit the series a lot more. But somehow when that happened to Final Fantasy, it just went more downgraded. You know, Final Fantasy VII looked good, so did 8 and so did 9. But eventually we got to a point where Square Enix was just obsessed. And this was right after Final Fantasy 10, 10-2, 12, 13. Seriously. They didn't think about all of this stuff when Final Fantasy 13 was coming out. They were just walking with the hardware that they had. But somehow after the PS3 era, that's when it went downhill. I noticed that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't care. But that's what I've noticed. That's what I noticed. Especially if you look back years back. And there's so many people that wanted to be the next Final Fantasy VII. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Still to this day, a lot of people want to be like, I want to be the next Final Fantasy VII. Good luck. Because you're going to tank. You're going to fall. You're going to fail. Instead of being the next you. Did Expedition 33 want to be the next Final Fantasy VII? No. By the way, it wasn't even inspired by Final Fantasy VII. It was inspired by Final Fantasy VIII. Which a lot of people dislike. Some people dislike. I don't. I think Final Fantasy VIII is better than Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, I said it. Final Fantasy VIII and 9 are better than Final Fantasy VII. I'm dead serious. Oh, then what do you think about Final Fantasy VIII between Final Fantasy 9? To me, I think they're equal. They equally together. But when it comes to Final Fantasy VII, it stands out like a sore thumb. This is the same company that some of the people inside the company were upset that Final Fantasy IX was going back to its medieval base. They were upset. Why we're doing that? We're neglecting the people that love Final Fantasy VII, that whole sci-fi shit. Fuck them. Who cares? Go back to the medieval shit. Oh, but they did that with Final Fantasy 16 and you still didn't get it. Yeah, because everything that I saw was just completely crap. It didn't appeal to me. And this is a person that plays Dragon Quest games. You know? I love Dragon Quest. But for crying out loud, man, like, it just didn't appeal to me, the game. Especially the combat. And the thing is, too, it's funny that there's some people out here that will defend this shit. Then they buy the game, and yet they don't play it right after it. They play it a little bit, and they don't play it again right after it. Why? Because I was right. Many people over here were right. But you got the game, trying to prove me wrong and other people wrong, but then you stop playing the game. Why you stop playing it? Because you knew we were right. We're not bullshitting you. We're seeing from the forest, from the trees, that some of you motherfuckers can't point out. It's the same thing with Mixtape, when you find out that the people that made it were fucking rich. It wasn't indies. And that's fine if you, because a lot of people complain that, oh, this person self-insert themselves in the game. A lot of people do that. I do that in my game. There's nothing wrong of inserting yourself into a game. People have done it so many times. Look at Dungeons and Dragons. You know, that's putting yourself into the game. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter what type of Dungeons and Dragons you're playing. Either it's a video game itself or the board game itself. You're still inserting yourself in, even with the movie of Dungeons and Dragons, which is the closest we'll ever get to a Final Fantasy movie. I'm dead serious. That Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out not that long ago, I think it was in 2019 or something, or 2020 or some shit like that. I can't remember, but that recent Dungeons and Dragons movie is the closest we're ever going to get to a live action Final Fantasy movie, bro. And it's a good movie. You should watch it. You should watch it. I need to get the DVD of that, bro. Seriously, because I don't have it in my collection. It will be perfect for my Enlightenment stacks that I got over there. Right next to, you can't really see it, but it's with Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel. Or should I say Shazam, but still. Moving on with that. But yeah, I just think that Square Enix has catered to a certain group. They catered to something that was going to destroy their franchise and their company. It's not to any group of people. It's not to a group of fans. Or yes, sometimes I make videos saying that Square Enix is trying to cater to these type of people, and they are. But this was before they started doing that. You know, they started doing that back in the PS4 era. You know, they even mentioned it when you play Final Fantasy 15. You know, a game for old school fans and new fans. Why do you have to say that? You didn't have to say that in Final Fantasy 15. Once you boot up the game. You don't tell the viewer that. It's almost like me. It's like me showing a movie to somebody, and I say this movie is great and awesome in the beginning of the movie before you even watch it. You don't do that. You don't do that, bro. You don't do that. How come Square Enix and Final Fantasy 15 gets a pass with that, but if I did it with my game or someone else did it with their game or movie, they don't get a pass? You know? So this is what I'm trying to convey. This is what I'm trying to say, bro. Square Enix has put themselves in a hole to the point that they cannot get themselves out, and they will never will get themselves out because they don't read the room. Everyone's out of touch in that company, and they just don't give a fuck. So what's going to happen to that company? That company, in, you know how they say they're going to take 3 years of just doing, they don't have 3 years. They don't. Once those 3 years are up, no one's not going to remember them. They haven't done anything. They haven't even been, they barely are even talking about. They barely are talked about. Hell, Rockstar is more talked about now. But that's a different story for another day, because I've talked about a lot about Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar already. But I've been wanting to talk about this for quite a while, because it just came into my head that Final Fantasy VII ruined a lot of shit when it comes to gaming. And that's nothing against the game. That's not, I will say this right now, that's nothing against the game. That is something against the company itself. Okay? The company itself saw the success of Final Fantasy VII and wanted to run it through the ground to the point that no one doesn't give a shit anymore. And they expect us to give a shit. We don't. We don't give a shit anymore. We don't. We don't give a shit. That's why I say, what's Final Fantasy 17 going to look like? It's not going to look good, isn't it? You know? So, what's next after Grand Theft Auto 6? I don't know, 20 more years or 80 more years of Grand Theft Auto 6 online? Seriously. I don't know. I just shake my head when I hear that shit. Anything else I could talk about before I end this video? I do want to say that I don't hate Final Fantasy. I don't even hate Final Fantasy 7. But what I do despise is that it is now the top head of how to make an RPG or how to do an RPG in general. And that's not the case. Final Fantasy VII was inspired by other Final Fantasies before Final Fantasy VII. So if you're going to put Final Fantasy VII up in a pedestal like that, then you're going to have to do it with 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of Final Fantasies. Because Final Fantasy VII won't be what it is without 6, without 5, without 4, 3, 2, 1. And some of you guys can't handle that shit. Too fucking bad. Too fucking bad. That's not my fault. That just proves to me that you just don't care. You don't care. And you never cared to begin with. I'm not talking to you. Seriously, get out of this video. Unsubscribe or some shit. I don't give a shit. I already had someone that just unsubscribed to me too. I don't give a shit. Go ahead, unsubscribe. I don't care 1,000. I don't care if my whole subscriber count goes down and I only have 0 subscribers. I don't care. I keep going. You think that bothers me? That's what I'm saying, man. Seriously. You know how many people are unsubscribed this year? Are they going to get butthurt about it? No, so why try? You know? Seriously, bro. Seriously. That's just me, man. If you disagree, okay, fine. That's fine if you disagree. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just trying to tell you how I see this shit. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. We didn't see it back then. We didn't even see it back in the PS3 era. But we saw it now. Now that to the point that Final Fantasy Remake is out, Final Fantasy Rebirth is out, and we have nothing with this company anymore. You know? Yes, they're putting out games that some people, like, you know, the Octopath Traveler series and stuff like that, but I really don't care about that series. Hey, if you like it, cool. Me, I just don't care for it. I would love to have a sequel to Four Heroes of Light, but people say that is part of the same genre of Octopath Traveler, and I'm just like, great. So if you hate Octopath Traveler, you must hate Four Heroes of Light. I love Four Heroes of Light. It's just that it is sad that game didn't get a sequel and it evolved into something that I just don't care for. Sounds like the whole company in itself, you know? Isn't that ironic? Isn't that poetic in a way? It's very poetic. And when it's all said and done, once the sun settles and everything like that, that's what's going to happen to Square Enix. They're probably going to go down under, and it's going to be very poetic. So where's the Final Fantasy franchise going to be? I won't be surprised if the half of Enix, that Square Enix, leaves and just sticks to Japan shit. Yeah, let's put everything on Dragon Quest in Japan, and we can have somebody like Atlas or /Sega to help us bring that here in America. Some other company. You know? So, I'll see you guys later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's just very worrisome when it comes to something like this. When Final Fantasy VII, when the company itself wanted to branch out to make a game more for the public, to branch out even more, and now look what we see with Final Fantasy VII. It's the same thing when people saying that I hate that gaming has become mainstream. Yes, it's true. Gaming should have never become mainstream. Wrestling should have never became mainstream. All right? Wrestling and video games should have never became mainstream. You know why? Because it was a niche for people, and it brought people in that loved it. Now you have so many people that are into this and acting like they been a part of it since they got in their mother's pussy, and they haven't. Because the way they talk, the way they present themselves, and the way they talk about gaming. I love gaming. I love wrestling. But how these things went into mainstream killed it. It killed it. It literally killed it. Like the good old saying goes, they killed the dragon before it became Sqawn. They saw what they had, they killed it before it became so powerful that they couldn't even defeat it. Like PewDiePie. You know how many times YouTube tried to destroy PewDiePie, but he was so big to the point that YouTube can't even do shit to him anymore. It's the same thing with Markiplier. You know? It's the same thing with all these other YouTubers that cannot be touched because YouTube has failed, in a good way, to try to take these YouTubers down. And they shouldn't be taken down. But YouTube, since it became more mainstream also, has went downhill. A lot of things that go to mainstream go downhill. It needs to be niche. It needs to be contained. It has to be not in a setting that everyone can watch and everyone can see. Because eventually you're going to have games that are what people call wokeism, and then those games do not sell. You know? I'm not going to call it that. That's why I put quotations on it. What I like to call those games is games that could have been great, but decided not to. That's why I call those games. Games that could have been a masterpiece. Games that could have been a cult classic, but the people behind it decided to say, nah, we just gonna call it a cult classic, and then people will believe us. Hell, even journalists, the journalists that we are friends with, they will agree and give us games 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10s. And then games like CHUCKY vs. Kingdom Kaizu, we give that a 7 out of 10. Yeah, you spend 4 years making it and put your heart and soul into it, but we're going to make it a 7 out of 10 game. Yeah. Maybe if you were a big corporation that had a lot of money, we may give you a 10 out of 10. This is the situation that we're in. All right? Again, I don't want to even mention about mixtape again, but it is what it is, because a lot of these YouTubers out here don't even mention the whole thing behind mixtape, or who's involved in it, who's paying for it. And if you listen to the soundtrack, which you can just listen to online, you would tell yourself how much money they had to pay for the soundtrack. Because an indie person, an indie studio that wants to have music like, for example, like Metallica, or for example, um Paramore, they would have to pay a lot of money for that. You know? Won't they have to pay a lot of money just to get that game inside their game if they're indies? Remember, there's a reason why they call indies. They don't have a lot of money. Even Halloween 1. Halloween 1 was an indie movie. And it had its own soundtrack and everything like that. And that soundtrack has become iconic as shit. Same thing with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the very first one. That's an indie movie. And none of those people that made that movie got 1 cent. Not 1 cent. Same thing with George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. He didn't get 1 cent out of that movie. Obviously, there was other things with it. But still, there's a reason why. All of these movies that I pointed out, there's a reason why these were indies. And they became cult classics still to this day and beloved. And now that Halloween is in the mainstream, these zombie movies are in the mainstream, it's not fun anymore. It's not good. It's not sustainable. All these video game companies and other companies, like movie companies, want to put stuff into the mainstream, and they don't, and they probably do know, they don't give a fuck. That is when you start killing your franchise. That's when you start killing your creativity, and that's how you start killing your fan base. But once you go to that length, that is how you know these studios just don't care anymore at that point. You want to be mainstream? You got it. You got that mainstream, Square Enix. You got it. Now you're going to suffer the consequences of it. All right, video game industry, you want to be mainstream? There it is. Now here's the consequence of it. You know? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. I love you guys. Be safe. Seriously. I know you guys don't have to agree with me all the time, and that's fine. I don't want you guys to agree with me every time I make a video. You know, because I'm not doing my job. If everyone agrees with me every freaking time I make a YouTube video, I'm not here for that shit. You know? But if you can get something out of it, or make you think about something that you didn't thought about before, then I did my job. I did my job. All right. Again, you don't have to agree with me or disagree with me. It's just I'm trying to make you think outside of the box, outside of the box, outside of the box, outside of the box, outside of the box. Because it's important to literally think outside of the box, because if you don't, you stuck there and you're going to literally, what is it? Well, you're going to you're going to take in and consume because you want to consume. It's the same thing that they say online. Consume and shut the fuck up. WWE. Consume, watch, shut the fuck up. Do you like that? I don't. If a company told you, consume and shut the fuck up, and buy or watch, would you do it? No. Anyone in their right mind would not do that. Even if you disagree with me or not, you would know not to do that. Because it's stupid. It isn't stupid. Anyone that has a freaking two working brain cells in their head would know that is not sustainable. That is not right. That is bullshit. You're pushing out your fan base, and you're pushing out more money, and you're pushing out money that you could get even more. Oh, we're making so much money. Yeah, but you can get more. What do you mean? What do you mean? You're sticking out the middle finger to people, and you're getting all this money. You're still asking, what do you mean? I could get more? Well, no shit. If you just put your finger down and freaking not be mainstream anymore. Oh, but that's impossible. Yeah, sure it is. Yeah, sure it is. You only say that because the money is racking in so much that you just want it all over your face. It's like coming all over your fucking goddamn face, bro. Seriously. And at that point, you are a corrupt motherfucker that just cares about money and doesn't care about the industry. So retire or croak. Which one is it? Seriously. I hate to say that, but it's true, bro. It is. It is. And somehow we can't say these type of words on YouTube when back in the day we used to. We can say all this fucking bumblebee fuck bullshit. But now we can't say it anymore. Why? Because YouTube has become mainstream and it's become pussified and the balls has been cut off. All right? I'm trying to put the balls back on YouTube. And if you don't like it, well, you're part of the fucking problem. And if you don't like it, that Square doesn't have that. And if you don't like that, and if you don't want Square, and if you don't want Square to have that, or other video game companies and movie companies don't have that, then you are the problem why some of these movies and video games are trash. You're the reasons why that some of us probably don't play some of these video games and we just go back to play the video games that we already played. How's that our fault when you keep bringing out other games that no one doesn't want to play? Or what they will say, consume. This all goes around with Final Fantasy VII, bro. And it's not just Final Fantasy VII, it's the company itself, Square Enix, or just Square. This is before Square Enix become Square Enix. They probably knew this before they merged with Enix to become Square Enix. And a lot of people don't want to point that out. Of course, why would they? I could be wrong, but I had to point that out. I had to put that on the table. And if you say no, then that just tells me that I'm right. Most likely, Square Soft did want to go public. And then look at the state that they're in now. They almost got bankrupt at one point because they wanted to go to mainstream. And Enix had to help them. They didn't want to go with them because they were like, you're getting bankrupt. We don't want to be a part of you. And then all of a sudden, Kingdom Hearts comes out, makes them a whole bunch of boatload of money, and Enix was like, all right, we'll join you. Why? Because there was passion, there was love, and there was a new IP that wasn't mainstream. Kingdom Hearts is mainstream now ever since Kingdom Hearts 3, and it sucks. It's boring, it's bullshit, no one doesn't care anymore. And that's how I'm going to end this video. Anything that becomes mainstream dies.